Hey strikers, there's nothing that I fear more than a bad goalie. We're not expecting solo queue goalies to be God's gift to gaming, but giving your team some confidence that you aren't going to be asleep at the wheel can make a huge difference in their mindsets and how they operate. Today we look at 10 mistakes that beginner goalies make, with number 4 being so obviously bad that it hurts me down inside. Recently, I've actually switched from forward to goalie just to make sure that I don't get bad goalies on my team, and this is all I really had to do to climb. Welcome to OSN, and let's start off with mistake number 1, and that is leaving the goal. You are the goalie. There are times where you can leave the goal, especially if you're on a man advantage with your goal gates up, but if your goal is wide open and you're playing aggressively to try to score, you're actually making your team liable to be scored on. I don't even know why we need to say this, but just stay in your goal. Number 2 is letting in soft goals. If both forwards are relentlessly attacking your goal and even the enemy Luna goalie is getting involved, no one expects you to successfully clear the core in that chaotic situation, and you'll never be blamed for allowing that goal in. However, when the core is moving at a snail's pace, yet it manages to slip past you and into your goal, then that's when people start getting annoyed. This becomes especially frustrating when your team has recently knocked someone out and you are on the verge of having a power play opportunity. The best way to avoid this mistake is just always pay attention to your positioning and don't just move around for no reason. Number 3 is passing the core back to the enemy instead of redirecting and clearing it. When an enemy is right on top of them, sometimes goalies pass the ball right back at their forward. It's essentially passing the ball to the enemy, and it allows them to shoot another shot. Instead, goalies should try to redirect either away from the forwards by passing to a teammate, upwards, downwards, or some weird diagonal to buy more time. This obviously doesn't always work, but it's very frustrating to deal with goalies that literally just play ping pong with enemy strikers. Obviously, redirections don't always work, especially when facing a forward such as Estelle, but it's still better than passing the ball right back to the opponent. Number 4 is holding on to abilities for too long. I've lost count of how many times my goalies have gotten scored on when I've never seen them use their secondary or core flip. They just assumed that they could have deflected the core and didn't need to use an ability. Then the core goes past them because some Juno blob flies from across the screen, and then they panic and then use the ability after the ball is past them, but it's too late. The most important thing to learn when you start playing goalie is the saying of, it's better to be safe than sorry. Obviously, we want to use our abilities as efficiently as possible, but it's best just to never let a goal in because you thought you didn't need it. Mistake number 5 is not anticipating ricochets. Having the ability to predict the direction of the core after it bounces off a wall or gets hit by an ability is a vital skill in Omega Strikers, but it's especially important for goalies. It is essential to constantly consider where the core might be heading with each apparent rebound. Failing to seize the opportunity to remove the core from your side could lead to increased pressure on yourself, as you'll have to face additional shots on you that have the potential to open your goal or even score. Mistake number 6 is mirroring the core. Constantly moving up and down to follow the core sounds good on paper, but this is such a fast-paced game, but standing in the spot that gives the most protection for your goal is the smarter play. You can see this in pretty much any sport such as hockey or soccer. Yes, the goalie does move towards the ball, but they don't move past their goal just to stay in the same plane as the ball. Instead, they find optimal angles to stand around their goal in relation to where the ball is going. This is especially important when the opponents have core flips, because they could easily hit it to the other side you're not favoring, giving away a free goal gate or even a goal. Sometimes you even get really unlucky bounces that get both your goal gates at the same time, which leads me to my next point, which is playing too much to one side. There are a few maps like Amy's App, Atten City, and Demon Days where you can play to protect both of the goal gates and it works incredibly well. But on most of the other maps, favoring one side is usually your best bet. Like in the last point, if you're slightly out of position and they get a good bounce, you're liable to get both of your goal gates right off the bat, and now you're playing at a huge disadvantage. In some cases, it's almost better to ignore one of your goal gates and instead focus on keeping the other one healthy. Mistake number 8 is they never stand still. The game is fast-paced, but anticipating what's coming is key. Sometimes it's a good idea to just sit there and observe everything and make a smart decision before you actually move. Move with a purpose. Sometimes if you're just going up and down randomly, there are a lot of times where suddenly your rhythm is just making you go top for some reason and then the ball's actually going down and it might be too late. And had you just stood still, you would have actually just saved the core. It's also okay to take a few breaks and relax instead of constantly doing something. Mistake number 9 is some goalies let themselves get bullied. If an enemy keeps harassing you by sitting in your goal, don't just let them have their way. You don't have to kill them alone, but you should at least try to make them pay the price for their actions. As a goalie, it's natural to focus on your defensive duties, but you also need to fight back a little bit and put pressure on them, especially if they're walking near the edge. If you don't, they'll keep attacking you without consequences. The last mistake that goalies make that's really common is that they never strike second. Forwards and goalies are always playing a game like chess against each other. One important part of this game is the staring contest, and you don't want to be the first to blink. As a goalie, you have to be very patient when trying to save the core while an opposing forward is trying to score, especially when the core is moving very slowly around your net. You generally have two options. You can strike first and they strike second, and now your strike is not available and the enemy scores unless you have your secondary or primary, or they strike first, you strike second, and then the core is cleared. If you keep losing the staring contest, you just simply won't be able to improve your rating as a goalie or even as a forward. I want to end this video with a gentle reminder that you are the goalie. Those are most of the mistakes that I hate my goalies making. But you know what else I hate? When people don't pick the right awakenings. So check out our awakenings guide over here.